Welcome back to DKTV, guys. Today we are doing our PGA preview show for, in my opinion, the best weekend, maybe in all of sports. You got the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball going on. But most importantly, you have the Masters, and DraftKings is doing it bigger than ever. We have a millionaire maker for golf, which is just absolutely absurd. $20 is going to be turned into $1,000,000 in this millionaire maker. I know I'm going to be throwing in a bunch of teams. It's going to be a lot of fun for everyone involved, and just an unbelievable tournament here. So it's the first of its kind, first time that $1,000,000 will ever be awarded in fantasy golf. And I believe the prize up top is bigger than second place in the Masters itself. So pretty crazy that this is going on, and certainly going to be a lot of fun. I'm joined by Drew Dinkmeyer and Geoff, who goes by Wave Goodbye on DraftKings. We have some really good insight for you guys. In addition to the Millionaire Maker, I also wanted to point out a couple things. We also have two qualifiers for our first ever live golf event as well. That's going to be for the Deutsche Bank Championship out in Boston. I was there last year. It's just an amazing time. Definitely throw some entries into that. And in addition, we also have the Tiger Jam going on, which is going to be in Las Vegas. Hoping to attend myself. That should be a lot of fun. But first, Drew, Geoff, how you guys doing? Drew, I'll ask you first.
I'm doing great, Pete. I'm really excited. You mentioned it, best weekend in sports coming up. All the sports are pretty much going, and the Masters is the icing on the cake. So I'm really excited for the Masters. I'm really excited for this event, the Millionaire Maker, held by DraftKings.
Yeah, and Geoff, how about yourself?
Yeah, it's been crazy to see the growth of daily fantasy golf in the past year. This weekend's going to be awesome. $1,000,000 to first. Can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah, no, it's going to be absolutely amazing. And as I mentioned before, we have that and just a bunch of other great contests. There's a Thunderdome. I mean, there's just an array of contests. So if you're looking to get into daily fantasy golf, this is the perfect weekend. And the Masters is just a joy to watch. So let's jump right into a little bit of notes here. Geoff, talk to us a little bit about the course. We know it favors some long hitters, but talk to us just specifically about how the course plays and what things you're looking for in your golfers.
Yeah, I think this week the most important thing is, you kind of touched on his length, but also par 5 scoring. Since the last 10 years, the winners here have actually gone 84 under par on the par 5s, while they've played the par 4s at even par. So one of the biggest things I'm looking for in golfers is, can they score on the par 5s? And traditionally, the long hitters are the ones that score better on the par 5s because they can reach it quicker. So that's a big thing. Obviously the greens here are unique. They're fast, they're slopey, they're just a nightmare for players basically. So looking for those guys who are coming in with, decent putting stats, decent scrambling ability, really important for golfers this week.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head there. Definitely length. I mean, Bubba's had really good success recently. We'll talk about him and other big hitters. Drew, before we dive into that, can you talk me through some of the news? I know we might be watching for some guys to withdraw, and just anything else that might be relevant for guys who are starting to make teams.
Yeah, so there's a handful of players to start with that are in the DraftKings player pool that aren't going to be partaking in the Masters this weekend. They either didn't qualify or they've withdrawn. The good thing is a lot of these get updated with the little O that you can keep apprised of. So some of the guys to not include in your lineups, they're not playing in the field this weekend: Harris English, Alexander Levy, Mark Warren, Andy Sullivan, Tim Clark. Those guys are all not within the field this weekend. And then some withdrawals to potentially monitor. I know Kevin Stadler is dealing with an injury issue that he is considered unlikely to play. And then Mark Leishman, his wife is in a coma, and it seems pretty unlikely that he would be able to play as well. So those are some news situations to follow over the course of the next few days.
Okay, well, that's definitely good to know. And obviously, if you put a guy who's not playing, you are just basically ruining that lineup. So make sure all your guys are in the tournament. That's the first and most important tip. But Geoff, if you were to give one tip to people who are making their first lineups or just getting into daily fantasy golf, what would it be for this weekend?
I think for the Millionaire Maker is really look for those guys who might not be coming into the tournament, in the hottest or greatest form, but have played well at Augusta in the past. And I'll list off a couple guys. Anhel Cabrera comes to mind. Matt Kuchar comes to mind. Guys who maybe haven't been lighting it on fire this year, but who can really pick it up for the majors and who really just love playing at Augusta. That's going to differentiate your lineup, give you a better shot at one of those higher placings.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was joking with a friend last night. I'm going to make the studs team and the old man team that crushes Augusta. Another guy is Fred Couples, who just seems to absolutely destroy Augusta. Drew, along those lines, if you were going to give another tip for someone just kind of getting going with daily fantasy golf or hasn't played a major like this before, what would it be?
I would say in general, try to build some rosters that are a little bit more balanced, especially this week. There's a lot of good golfers in the mid-pricing range, and the bottom end of the tier, because it's the Masters, because people who have won the Masters get lifetime eligibility to participate in the tournament. There's some people at the very bottom end of the tier that are players that aren't even really playing on the tour anymore. So be careful going too much stars and scrubs, because you'll get stuck with some guys that just don't have any chance at really competing at all.
Okay. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, all those guys are some of the best golfers of all time. Probably not going to end up on your fantasy roster. Might be a good avoid there. So let's talk the studs. Geoff, we'll go to you. Everyone knows about Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, and then, the guys who are probably at the top right now, Roy McIlroy, Bubba Watson, Jordan Spieth. Talk to me a little bit about those guys, and if there's anyone that you dislike strongly out of those guys, and anyone that you like strongly out of those guys.
Out of the guys you mentioned, I feel like Rory is just maybe a little bit off this year so far. I'm not sure what's wrong with him or if there's anything wrong or if he's just a little off, but I just feel like he's not peaking for Augusta right now. So at his price, I'm kind of looking to fade him this week. As far as other top players, the guy I'm actually really keen on is Dustin Johnson myself. He has, since he's come back, he's first in driving distance and first in strokes gained tee to green. He's basically hitting it better than anyone on tour right now. And even though he doesn't have the greatest major record, he just seems like a different person since he's come back. So that's the kind of guy I'm keying on this week. But there's a lot of players at the top that we could discuss. So.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on that. My two favorite studs this week, personally, are Bubba and Dustin. Bubba just has an amazing record here, and being a lefty is a huge advantage for him with his length. And you're totally right on Dustin. I mean, now he's a father. There's a lot of narrative about, the baby and everything that he changed in his life. But my goodness, he's been playing amazing this year. And just watching him strike the ball, I mean, he hits the ball so far, so high. And like you said, he's number one from tee to green. So I think he's a good guy who's set up perfectly for this course. Drew, any other comments there on the studs that we didn't name that you're paying attention to?
Those are the two guys that I think are going to be some of the higher owned guys as well of these expensive guys. And I think for good reason. You guys hit on all the good reasons that both guys, length, history at the course, very good players. I think some other guys with big length in that range that you got to consider as potential favorites, both Adam Scott and Henrik Stenson. Scott's going back to that long putter that he's had so much success with throughout his career. He has struggled putting on the greens early in the season as he's been trying to move to that short putter to get prepared for next year. Going back to the long putter, a little bit more comfortable. He's one of the best players tee to green in the PGA Tour. And then Henrik Stenson, he's just been on fire the last 2-3 months, whether it's the PGA Tour, European Tour. Guys lighting it up with top five seemingly every week. Got a lot of distance. Very good with his irons. It's the putter will be the separator for Stenson. He's been putting well early this season. It'll be interesting to see if he can continue that at Augusta. Yeah,
man, just talking about these guys, I'm just itching for the weekend. Watching the Masters is just so glorious. Last topic on the studs, Tiger Woods. I'm not very bullish on him, and I actually think he's more likely to miss the cut than put up any success. What are your thoughts, Geoff, on Tiger?
Man, I'm probably the only guy who is going to make like a semi-pro positive Tiger argument this week. If you look at his record at Augusta, I think he's finished outside the top 6 3 times since 2000, which is ridiculous because he's come in poor form a couple times. I'm not saying that you should play him on every roster, but I could see him finishing top 20, top 10 in this event. It's quite possible, and it's just as possible he's going to miss the cut. So would I recommend him as a strong play in a lot of your lineups? No, but if you want to take a chance with him, why not, really? He's Tiger Woods. So.
He is Tiger Woods. In my opinion, I know Jack has more majors, but Tiger's dominance, he's the greatest golfer in my mind. Yeah. And he does love Augusta, but he's looked so off for me. Might roster him on a couple of GPP teams, but no chance I touch him with cash. Drew, your thoughts on him and another really famous guy, Phil Mickelson?
Yeah, so Tiger, I was like all out on Tiger in terms of GPPs and definitely cash games. But, I was just watching his press conference and watching him kind of warm up and different things. And I don't know, I'm starting to get a little Tiger feeling. I might use him in a few more GPPs than I planned on before. Phil got off to a great start last weekend, and it looked like his game was really rounding into form, and then hit some lumps on the weekend. But he's a guy, lefty, bomber, just like Bubba Watson, same profile, that plays well here at Augusta. So he's going to be a guy that's definitely going to make his way into my rosters as well.
Yeah, definitely. Going to get some exposure to those guys, and it's going to be fun making a lot of teams. So we'll end this up with probably the most important thing for making lineups, the value guys. This is really where you can differentiate yourself and enable yourself to get some of these, Spieths, Bubba Watson, Dustin Johnson guys into your lineup. Geoff, we'll start with you. Who are some of your favorite values this week?
One guy I'm really looking at is Ryan Palmer. He has just played super consistent golf the past year or so, and his statistics really show it. He's top 10 in driving distance, top 10 strokes gained tee to green. He's actually got a top 10 at Augusta, and he also likes to hit a big draw, which is really good. So he's one of my top plays. And the other guy I'm looking at is Russell Henley, who's just $100 cheaper. He's a Georgia native, actually, and he gets overlooked. He's only 25, but he's won on tour twice already. So he's the same age as Patrick Reed, but for some reason, he just doesn't get talked about as much. But he's a super interesting young golfer, and I could see him making some waves this weekend.
All right, Drew, I'll pass the torch to you. Who are some values that you like?
Some guys that look underpriced to me. Jimmy Walker, leading the FedEx Cup race, and at 8,900, that's a different price point than a lot of the other top golfers. I know he doesn't have extended history of success here at Augusta, but that seems like a little bit too cheap for Jimmy Walker's skill set. And then also another guy, JB Holmes, is going to be very popular this week. He's a bomber, exceptionally cheap. My one concern with JB is his driver was everywhere last week, and you can't really do that at Augusta and get away with it. I know that accuracy isn't key, but you can't be as wild as he was last week and get away with it. But he's very cheap as well.
Yeah, JB Holmes, someone that I did watch last week as well. When I saw the prices come out, he stood out like a sore thumb to me. I mean, he's a guy who can hit the ball as far as anybody, and his style of play sets up really well for the Masters. So I think he's another really underpriced guy. But like you said, he's going to have to get that driver honed in to do really well at the Masters. Kevin Na, another guy who's really, really cheap. The waggle everyone knows about, but he could definitely make some noise. And then going back to the old man kind of thing that, decent course history, I think Vijay Singh, another guy who's really, really cheap, a guy that I definitely will have some exposure to for the Masters. So let's close with this. Geoff, any bold predictions for the Masters this week?
Let's see. I think I'm going to have to just go and say Dustin Johnson's going to win. I think he'll overcome his kind of past demons at majors, and yeah, I think he's going to take it down.
All right, Drew?
I'm going to go for a mid-range value guy as my bold prediction. I was saving him. I wasn't going to use him in the value section. Paul Casey. I think he's going to put up a top 10 this week. Big fan of Paul Casey.
All right, I like that. And I'm going to go back to Bubba. This is not bold at all, but saw Bubba at a Clippers game. He's doing the burrito thing again. I think Bubba, this course just plays too perfectly for him. I think he is going to be the winner of the 2015 Masters. So thanks for checking this out on DKTV. We have a ton of content on the Playbook, as well as more content coming here on DKTV. Always check us out when you're getting ready for the big contest. And good luck. Hope to see one of you guys take home $1 million in the Million Maker on DraftKings.com.